Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back to my channel as we're going to discuss the Aries Solar Eclipse happening on April 8th, 2024 at 2:21 p.m. That's Eastern Time, so be sure and adjust for your location on the planet. So with this solar eclipse, we find the sun and the moon exactly conjunct along with Chiron. Now notice how all three are at the same degree, 19 degrees of Aries, 24 minutes, exact conjunction. Chiron has been at 19 degrees of Aries before. In fact, Chiron stationed retrograde back in July 2023 at this degree point. And this is important to note because it means that Chiron has already been working with you through this energy in your chart. And now we have this new moon solar eclipse that is actually providing you with a new healing awakening. Now, a solar eclipse is a new moon, which is the darkest time in the sky. And that means that something is being hidden. Chiron is holding a key to the next phase of your healing, of whatever you're ready to see within yourself, which is the Aries. And the solar eclipse is bringing in a burst of intention, awakening, understanding, and insights that will start to open up after the solar eclipse is exact. And so it's going to move forward. Specifically, the moon is going to move forward and start to shed new light on what this is for you. Chiron is halfway through this degree point. Chiron will return to 19 degrees of Aries, where it will also station direct in December. And so we are halfway through something that started in July 2023. I find it fascinating that this is the degree point that Chiron keeps stationing retrograde and direct at because of how it coincides with the new consciousness that is emerging through the solar eclipse. Now, this solar eclipse is working with that north node. So it's opening up a new chapter for you, a new beginning, something to work with through the healing that you've been moving through. It's almost like don't shut down the healing. Don't hide from it. Don't let the ego override it. Don't push it away. There's something here that you're really meant to understand and learn more about yourself that only Chiron can deliver at this time. With the Chiron energy, you could need more time to yourself, more time to work through whatever is being triggered or coming up, especially anything that feels highly vulnerable. And keep in mind, that is part of Chiron's role. Chiron is here to connect you to more of your own internal medicine that you didn't know you possessed or that you held. And you could only access it by going into the wound, going into the injury, or into whatever that pain is. And that pain is the gateway into the healing. And the pain, of course, can be something that you've carried through lifetimes. Depends on where you have 19 degrees of Aries. But this north node is showing you a new potential, a new avenue, a new way to integrate it and embody it to help with healing yourself. Now with Chiron, we often need support. You might feel like, I can't do this on my own. This is really tough. You know, this can activate parts of yourself that you haven't seen. I'm getting the visual of fractures, like how we can fracture part of our energy that's too painful or push it away. This could be where you're welcoming back a part of yourself that was previously bruised, hurt, traumatized This can be inner child work, especially in Aries. This can be anything that you went through when you were younger that was maybe even frozen in time. And the warmth and fire here of Aries is thawing it. This could be something that you pushed away, you weren't ready to deal with it, life was too busy, and now it's coming back front and center. But keep in mind, there is beautiful potential here, there's beautiful growth, and ultimately, not only is there promised healing, which is something that Chiron delivers when you see it through the full process, when you see it through, but there's also something that's going to open up and continue to open up for you. Now, keep in mind, Chiron was previously conjunct this North Node exactly back in February at 16 degrees. So you're already aware of it. Maybe you're already working on it. You already got it. You're already conscious of it. And here is this solar eclipse that brings in a powerhouse download of new momentum. Something that could be seated within you. I'm seeing energetically coded. Okay, this is interesting. I'm seeing it as being energetically coded, but it's like it's pulling in those fractured parts of yourself, and I'm seeing it as these new links, kind of like this, that if this is the fractured part of you, it's pulling it closer. It's pulling in parts that have been, again, pushed away, abandoned. It's a retrieval. It's a soul retrieval, but it feels more immediate. It feels more about this lifetime, but trust it for yourself if it feels like it's from another lifetime or through even ongoing patterns of soul experiences that have deeply wounded or affected your sense of self, that made you feel less than, that took away or diminished your right to exist. Because Aries is the right to exist. It's like, I'm here, I'm ready to show up, I'm in this body, I'm ready to go. I came in with my motivation, my dreams, let's do this. And then the Chiron energy slows it down. That's another theme here, is that this is a slower moving healing process with Chiron. And it's something that, again, you're halfway through it, but it's a new burst of energy and it's a new birth of energy. Now, also you'll see we have this Mercury at 24 degrees Aries retrograde going back, and we'll actually voyage back to 15 degrees of Aries, 15 degrees, 59 minutes, and we'll be meeting up with that North Node. This Mercury, the messenger, is going to be picking up additional intelligence from Chiron, and is going to have the conjunction to the moon and the conjunction to the sun. Then Mercury will be traveling behind the sun, the dark side of the sun, if you will, another area of your consciousness that's holding more for you to work with and understand. And so this Mercury retrograde is working personally with this solar eclipse. And the tricky thing is that you're meant to slow down, and you could feel really impatient with yourself. You could feel just really impatient. Like, why isn't this moving along? Why aren't I further along? And what's important is to temper that and regulate it. And be like, I am where I am. This is where I'm at today. I'll be in a new place tomorrow. This is where I'm at. So it's tricky because that Aries energy wants to go forward, but there's slowdown here. And the slowdown is meant to benefit you so that you're seeing more of even what's been operating behind you or what's been operating deeper within the primal fears. Now, the Aries energy is primal, and it can also be survival based. And so it's kind of bringing up, well, maybe not kind of, maybe definitely, what you thought you had to do to survive in the human experience, what you thought you had to do to prove something or to demonstrate who you are. This can be very competitive. This can be, I have to be number one, I have to be the best, which is only a programming related to certain systems, certain environments. It's going to be in the Olympics this summer, the Olympics in Paris. It's also something that's very capitalistic. It's very patriarchal. It's very much about, I've got to get to the top of the ladder. The only thing that matters is being number one. Now, sure, that can drive us at times. That can be a healthy outlet. That can be fun and games. But how much is that driving your sense of self to the point that it's actually working against you, where you're not seeing that you're loved, worthy, and needed just for where you are and just for showing up? So this Aries area of your chart, the second half of Aries, especially from 15 degrees to actually 27 degrees, because 27 degrees is where this Mercury stationed retrograde. There's deep work here about your own journey of self. And I'm actually, as I said that, I'm seeing a treasure chest with gold. A treasure chest holding more in your self-discovery voyage. Now, the ruler of this eclipse is Mars. And of course, we have Mercury, Chiron, the moon, the sun, and the north node, all in Aries, ruled by Mars in his relaxed state of surrender in Pisces. Mars is at the end of his marathon journey. It takes him about 2 years to go around the full zodiac wheel because of his retrograde. And so here he is at 13 degrees of Pisces, nearing that conjunction with Saturn. If you'll recall, the Libra lunar eclipse, which was ruled by Venus, had Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces. So both eclipses, we're seeing the ruling planet conjunct the Saturn in Pisces, which adds a much more spiritual level and undertone and influence to what is happening. This is a bigger part of your spiritual journey. This eclipse and the previous Libra lunar eclipse hold a lot more around your spiritual growth than what meets the eye. And this is something that we are reprogramming. Now, you could look at how when Venus was conjunct Saturn, that was reprogramming feminine. Now Mars conjunct Saturn is reprogramming masculine. But the reprogramming is in letting go of who you were, meaning it's kind of like that Venus is realizing what was limiting my next level of spiritual ascension. Now Mars, what masculine traits have I outgrown? What am I leaving behind? Saturn and Pisces, they both start with a P, is about the karmic consequences and choices that you've made up till this point in the past 30 years. Saturn is closing out a much bigger cycle, and that continues into next year. So we're going to keep talking about the letting go and releasing. That's just the theme right now. It's a big, huge theme because of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So even though that might sound redundant to some of you, that's the name of the game. That's what we're working with. It's a huge understanding of what has been carried from age of Pisces and where we have given up our power, where we have martyred ourselves, where we thought we had to serve beyond ourselves, where we weren't fully integrated with our God self that is in ourselves, that is existing within us. So this Mars conjunct this Saturn in Pisces, there's some big realizations here about how you've been maybe acting, performing, what you've been motivated by, what you've been going after, and understanding that's just not what I want anymore. That's just not who I am anymore. And here we have the Saturn gatekeeper actually wanting to reward you for what you are transcending, for what you're realizing. And this energy, I see it as this filter. 90% of stuff has to go, and maybe just 10% moves forward in Pisces. Mars is being unraveled. Mars is actually unraveling a lesser, lower consciousness. And it feels too that it's so necessary, because what he hasn't realized is that he's more than just this body, this lifetime, this go-getter energy. I'm just seeing this as this is a masculine awakening, regardless of your gender or sex, within your desires, within what you're motivated to experience, to go for. And it's following behind Venus, but it's actually not over until after Mars is conjunct Neptune, which will be at the end of April. And then he enters Aries on April 30th. It's almost like this Mars is entering into a silent retreat or a meditation retreat where he has to be more reflective and contemplative. And because he's ruling all of these other planets here in Aries, there's something about his frequency that's deeply influencing them. And the new sense of self that you're connecting with, as well as the slowdown of Mercury retrograde. So it seems that this is coming together as Mars enters a silent retreat of reflection, self-understanding, letting go, closing out some chapters in his life. And these planets are doing their own work, or their own, that they're aware of what is going on in the spiritual quest. That's another way to describe it. Mars is on a new spiritual quest, and a deeper chapter of his spiritual quest. And all of these planets are kind of just hanging tight because there is a slowdown here, even though it's in Aries. Keep in mind, this is the only Aries eclipse we have this year. We have one more Aries eclipse next March 2025, but this is the only one of this year, and it's kind of, I was going to say damaged. It's kind of in a healing crisis. Now, do keep in mind that with Chiron here being exact, it can bring up a crisis and emergencies. It can bring up accidents, health issues. It will depend on what frequency you're at, of course, and how much of your healing work you've already been acknowledging and working with. But the Chiron energy can bring up an injury, so be careful. And even with this Mars, you're more likely to hesitate or push things off or not want to deal with it. And I feel like part of what we're actually being more attuned to are the higher frequencies in the cosmos that we can trust. And that is a theme between both the Pisces and Aries energies, is to trust more, to trust what you're embodying in your physical self, and to really listen to your body consciousness. We are heavily focused on our minds and what we're thinking, the details, what we're seeing. In fact, we're probably too enmeshed in the mind. And this would be an opportunity to stop and check in with the body, listen to where the energy is guiding you, to where you want to go somewhere, where you don't want to go somewhere, where you feel that resistance, and what your body is saying to you. It feels like we are integrating more of our spiritual abilities and gifts into our sense of self through a required slowdown, through understanding what's been fractured and pushed away, through knowing that there's always solutions. There's unlimited solutions to everything and anything. And there could be parts of yourself that are also coming to light. And oh, my apologies, I didn't reference this Venus also in Aries. That would obviously then also be ruled by Mars. And this Venus, she has been in a sextile to Pluto here. She's pulling away from that, but she's understanding more of who she is now. So there's also a strong energy here of independence, things you're learning to do on your own. And that could be part of your Chiron experience where the universe is requiring you to be more independent, to go your own way, to trust yourself more. Allow that to be something that you tune into and use for navigational purposes. And that could be something that you're figuring out. And you're learning about yourself, like where you've given too much of your energy to others, where you have invested in, what other people need or what other people think, and realizing that this is the time to call all that back to yourself with the strong Aries and understand how that's influenced your spiritual growth, where it's limited you, but where you can also use this as an opportunity to open up and be curious. Be curious about the part of yourself that was in that space, or, be curious about what was I learning through those experiences? What was coming up that I can see now that I couldn't see before? And then you'll notice, of course, we also have the increasing influence of Jupiter reaching Uranus. That will occur at 21 degrees 49 minutes exactly. So this influence is building. It's in play, especially with them only being 2 degrees apart. But this is helping you to shake something off. I'm going to have another video for you shortly discussing this, because I also have a new way for you to look at this, to analyze it and understand what Jupiter is pushing and amplifying towards Uranus. And this is where you could just feel ready to make a change, because that's what Uranus wants. And it's sudden change. It's fast moving. It's surprising, shocking, out of the blue. It's unsettling as well, destabilizing. But this Uranus has already been at 21 degrees of Taurus before. And so this feels like something that you've also been aware of. So it's interesting because the solar eclipse is bringing to light more parts of yourself that you've been holding back. More parts of yourself that are reaching it's like a birthing period, but I'm seeing it as a balloon that wants to pop. It's like, this is what I've been growing. This is what's been happening within me. This is how I am becoming a new version of myself. And now it's coming to light in this new cycle. In this new cycle. So in your chart, 19 degrees, 24 minutes of Aries is where this energy is highly focused. And it's also where you're going to be working through something into next year, because of how, again, the Chiron energy retrogrades back to 19 degrees of Chiron until the end of December of this year, December 30th, stations direct, and then moves ahead and is at 19 degrees until February 2025. And then next March 2025, I believe it's March 29th, there is a new solar eclipse in Aries. So I would say that this solar eclipse energy, it unfolds for a year. It unfolds for a year. So I hope this has been helpful and that it supported you with anything you are feeling or experiencing. Be sure to check out the 2024 Soul Growth Astrology program, where I talk about this eclipse even more and all the eclipses of this year, including the cycles of eclipses. The last time we had eclipses at this degree point, that's a great way for you to understand more about what unfolded for you previously. So I'll put the link below the video here. But I hope that you're able to connect some dots for yourself around the gifts of Chiron, as well as what you are birthing because of an awakening and to more that is growing in your spiritual journey at this time. I'll see you back here soon for another video. Happy solar eclipse.